49ers Ultimate Report. This is John Jay, your 49ers reporter, opinionist, analyst, and die-hard fan. Welcome to another episode of the 49ers Ultimate Report. I am John Jay, and we have another installment of my great series, the Candlestick Point Reports. You guys don't need no introduction. You know who is on the panel. Let's bring in Shifty 49ers Talk back to the show.
All right, how we doing, John? We got live NFL action tonight. Go Bills. And then Niners on Sunday. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Yep. And basically, football is back. Today is the first day of official football, the annual Thursday night game with the Rams versus the Bills. And before we talk about anything 49ers related, let's talk a little bit about this game, about the Rams versus the Bills, the defending champions, taking on a team who's supposed to go to the Super Bowl this year, the Buffalo Bills. So I want to get your thoughts about this Rams and Buffalo Thursday night game.
I think it's a great game to kick off the season. I think that's something that the NFL has done a good job of whenever they always have normally have the defending Super Bowl champion open on Thursday night. But man, this is like a primetime matchup. You know, Bills, Rams, it's going to be a great game. A lot of just star players. I expect it to be a pretty high scoring game, even though I think both teams have pretty good defenses. But wow, electric game to start off the season, and really hoping that the Bills can get the W here. So, hey, we always want to see those pesky Rams lose. It's always a good time when they lose.
Yeah, every year, the Thursday night football game, the very first week of football, it's always a fun game. I watch it always, even though the Niners usually are never on these Thursday, night football games, but it's still a reminder. And I remember one year, and we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears, because we're playing them, was the Chicago Bears versus the Green Bay Packers. It was a great defensive matchup. And for any Bears fans who are listening, I think this was like 3 years ago, where I think it was the 100th season. And the Bears and the Packers, a great defensive matchup. The game was 14-9. The Bears could have won that game. Unfortunately, they were unable to capitalize on the final drive of the game. But it was a fun game. Those are the memorable games that you will always remember on these Thursday night games. And I'm very excited. And I do want to see the Bills beat the Rams. But this game can go either way. So that's just my thoughts about the very first game of the year. So just wanted to start off the show talking about that game. Now we're going to go to the chat. I want to say hello to all my 49er faithfuls in the building. And, of course, shout out to my boy Brian, me and Brian yesterday were having a great discussion of NFL, 49ers, and great stuff. Shout out to my boy Brian. He says, "What's up, faithful, John Jay, and Shifty? What is up?" It's always great hanging with my boy Brian. Yep. Shout out to him. Of course, David McNew, also another guy I was having a great conversation yesterday. We were talking about the week one matchups. David says his Niners all damn day. That is right. That is right. We got Danny in the house. What is up, Danny? Thanks for tuning in. He says, "What's up, John? What is up, Danny?" And then David says, "At Brian, what's up, buddy?" And then David says, Bills get to watch the Lambs hang a banner. I call that extra motivation."
I agree.
Oh, man. And because I'm a 49er fan, because David just mentioned that, now I'm a little bit more upset that they are raising the banner, and that's like, whatever. Hopefully the 49ers are watching that game, watching them put that banner up there. Like, no, that's us this year. Screw that.
Oh, you know that the Niners are going to be watching that game. They're going to be like, all right, that's going to be us next year.
All right. So we're going to start off the show a little bit different. Yesterday, the 49ers announced their captains, and I wanted to put the images of the six. I think we got six captains. So we got Eric Armstead, we got Fred Warner, we have George Kittle, Trent Williams, uh, Jimmy Ward, and of course Nick Bosa. So I wanted to get your thoughts, Shifty, about these captains. What do you think about the captains?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these players are guys that we would have expected. A lot of like the more vocal leaders of the team, where we always see, George Kittle's very outspoken, Trent Williams, Jimmy Ward, Fred Warner. And then I think a guy like Eric Armstead, he's been around the team for a long time. He's probably one of our longest tenured players, him and Jimmy Ward. So not surprising by those picks. Nick Bosa is a little bit of a surprise because he's not that, loud, outspoken guy, but from everything that you hear about him, like in the weight room or in the practice room, like one on one, he's like just like clearly respected, but also just a big time leader. I think we all know about like, hey, Trey Lance wasn't picked as a captain, Debo Samuel not either. And of course, look, we can get into that and talk about that, but I don't think it's a big deal. It's not a big deal to me. I think there was the press conference yesterday. Shanahan said that basically in the voting that Trey was seventh and I think Debo was eighth. So, there we go. Like clearly the team respects all of these guys, but yeah, I'm, with the captains, I was kind of hoping that Juszczyk might get it too, like Juszczyk, but beyond that, I think it's kind of the guys who I would have expected for the most part.
Yeah, and when I look at this picture of these players, and yesterday, it was a breaking news that happened during my show, and so we talked about it a little bit, but I felt that I would get more chances to talk about this because I didn't really have much an opinion. So the first thing that I will say is that I personally don't really care about the captainship. Like I don't know what it means, but it really shows what the Niners do. Eric Armstead, he's been a 49er for a long time. Fred Warner and George Kittle, one of the first players that have been on this team during the very, very early days of Kyle Shanahan. Trent Williams, great star in his own, going back to the days of when he was in Washington. He's a great leader, very respected in that offensive line room. Jimmy Ward, another player who's been here for a long time, and Nick Bosa. So when you look at these captains, they went for the players that have been here for a long time. Again, no disrespect to Brandon Ayuk or Debo or Trey Lance, Elijah Mitchell, Javon Kinlaw. We also have Emmanuel Mosley, Kyle Juszczyk. We talked about him. It's just that there's so much talent on this team that anyone could have been a captain. And at the end of the day, these are the players that will be going out in the coin toss. And that's basically about it. Overall, you see what these players have done. They've been here for the long haul. They've been very successful, and there's a reason why they were voted in. Trey Lance made a very, very good point, an extremely good point. Is like, I haven't played football yet. I want to be a captain next year or the year after. My goal is to be a captain on this team in the future. And that's one thing why I like about Trey Lance when it comes to the way he carries himself. But at the end of the day, there could have been many cases for many other players to be captains. And that's my thoughts about this. We have so many great players. Any final thoughts on the captains?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you about Trey Lance as well. It's like he hasn't really played a lot, so I think there's been some people in the media who make a big deal out of it, saying that the team doesn't believe in him, and to me, that's just a whole bunch of garbage. I just it's so stupid for them to come up with that kind of stuff. But I think Trey has shown, like, for such a young guy, he's shown such great leadership. He's shown like a lot more mature than certainly I was at his age. But yeah, I think next year he'll for sure be a captain. To me, it's a non-story, So I think you kind of went through the players. It makes sense why each of those guys were picked, and yeah, I don't think it's as big a deal as some people make it out to be.
What's up? It's our boy Cardcast in the building. Look, our boy
Yo.
Cardcast is in the building. And I actually reached out to CarCast, and me and him are working on something on Sunday. So it'll be a good Sunday show with my boy, me and CarCast. Hopefully, it turns out really well. Because again, I'm going to be doing the play-by-play. He could be stopping by, so just keep your eye on there. As we'll get two people to give perspectives during the game. All right, Brian wants to say what's up to his boy David, who's in the chat as well. All right, now let's talk about the biggest story this entire week. The Chicago Bears and the 49ers are going to be playing a game week 1. We are basically 72 hours away. It's 3 days after today. 3 days after today, we got football, and the 49ers are playing the Bears. We're going to start off with your thoughts on the game. What are your thoughts on the game? This matchup, the 49ers versus the Chicago Bears. Overall, when you look at this matchup, what are your thoughts? What do you see? And what do you want to see happen in this game?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when it comes to this matchup, and it's to be expected, it's kind of like Justin Fields versus Trey Lance. Honestly, I think this 49ers team is a lot more talented than the Bears. However, I do think the Bears, I think there might be some Niner fans who are, underestimating the Bears. They do have a lot of quality players as well. I just think about Robert Quinn, who I think is super underrated at pass rusher. Roquan Smith is a very good linebacker. Overall, though, I think that the Niners just have enough talent to make enough plays to win the game. Be really curious, a slight little storyline as well here is that the special teams coordinator for the Niners last year and the number of years before that was Richard Hightower. He's now the special teams coordinator in Chicago. So maybe he'll look to try and get some revenge on the Niners. They might drop some, trick plays or whatnot. But I think ultimately, as long as the Niners, they don't force anything, if they don't, turn the ball over, just play smart on special teams, make plays when they're there, just be consistent, then the Niners should have enough talent to get by. One of the things that kind of can worry me a little bit is that week 1 is always a little bit weird. We've seen the Niners when they had Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula as head coach. We won both those week 1 games, even though the rest of the year we were, not a good team. But ultimately, I think, look, a lot of these players have been with the Niners for a long time. The coaching staff has been here a long time, and we'll have that chemistry and everything. And we should be able to make enough plays to get the W.
Yeah, I remember in 2015 and in 2016, the 49ers won both week 1 games. But then when you look at the rest of the season, the 49ers went 12. They went 4-11 after week 1. That was in 2015. Then in 2016, we won the game. The 49ers lost 11 games in a row. It was a very, very difficult time for the 49ers before we finally won a game, and then we finished basically 1-14 that year if you take away the week 1 matchups. So the 49ers, for many years, win their first game of the year for whatever the reason. In this decade, the 49ers win their first game. I'm not going to say 100% of the time, but we've always won those games. So when you look at the history that you just brought up, which is another thing that most Bears fans need to look at the history, that in 2015, 2016, 2 horrible years for us, we won those games. Also, Rams fans have to understand those years we beat the Rams when we were horrible twice. So we've owned the Rams. You go back 30 years, the Niners have a 78% winning percentage against the Rams. We've owned them in the last 30 years. So, but we're talking about the Bears. Let's talk about the Bears for a second. They got 2 hungry young prospects in the secondary. One is Kyler Gordon, which was my draft. People call it draft crush. So I'm going to use that term, draft crush. And then Jaquan Brisker from Penn State, another draft crush. And they went to the Bears. Then you got Jalen Johnson. I think that's his name, the other corner. So Their secondary, compared to the 49ers, we still have the better secondary, but they got good players. Roquan Smith is their only linebacker that you can really say is a dangerous linebacker. And then the only offensive line player is Robert Quinn. So their defense has 4 players that I can think on the top of my head that are quality talent. But again, linebacking core versus the 49ers, we beat them. Defensive line, we beat them. Our secondary is a slight edge because of our depth. We have depth. We don't have flashy names. We have depth. Then on the offensive side, they got one offensive line player, still very young, unproven, but one offensive line player prospect, Justin Fields. And they do have 2 playmakers in Montgomery and also in, what's his name, Darnell Mooney. But again, young, unproven players. Compared to the 49ers on paper look like the most complete team. So when I look at this game, I have to look at the overall aspect of the game. Week 1, since 2011, the 49ers, I think, have won the majority of their Week 1 games, even when we were horrible. Last year, we were blowing out the Lions by, I think, 24 points until our corner, Jason Verrett, got hurt, and the Lions came back, but we still won. So history says the 49ers are going to win. History says the 49ers should win. And on paper, we are the better team. So that's my thoughts about the Bears-49er matchup. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I think you're right. The history is definitely on the 49ers side. And I think that the Niners, the game plan is probably going to be pretty straightforward, where a lot of running the ball. When I kind of looked at the matchup, I'm like, I think we're going to run the ball like 30, 40 times this game. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I'm going to be really curious to see, what maybe new things that Shanahan implements with Trey Lance, if there's going to be, read options, all those kind of things. But ultimately, I think the Niners should, when you break down the rosters side by side, like the Niners are definitely more talented. I think in order for the Bears to win, it's going to rely on some, I don't know if I want to call it luck, but like a special teams touchdown, or maybe there's like a weird fumble or something like that. But as long as the Niners play within themselves, get the ball in the hands of their playmakers, play that solid defense, then I think we should come away with the win.
Yeah. All right. So for all my Spanish-speaking brothers out there and sisters who also speak Spanish, buenas tardes, or how are you doing? John J., mi compadre, LOL. Basically, he says, how are you doing, my bro, my buddy, whatever, for those who don't speak that language. YTC who's a New York Giants fan, just needed an excuse to say hello in a foreign language. And then Niners. Oh, damn day. What a great name. Do you agree with it, Shifty? This is one of the best names. Oh no, he changed it.
Damn day.
He says, and then it's all damn day, bro. All damn day. He says, no mas. YTC says no more. All right. Anyway, who's ready for some football tonight? Are you ready for some football tonight, Shifty?
Oh, man, I can't wait. Even though, our Niners aren't playing, but we kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. Like, this is going to be a great matchup. 2 teams who are most likely headed to the playoffs, a lot of star players. It's regular season football. Yep. It's going to be awesome.
Basically, it counts now. Win is a win, loss is a loss. All right. We got Fialua, also known as Soli684, says, aloha. Aloha, everyone. Aloha and mahalo. So out there to those, we always say aloha and mahalo. It's a term out there. Great stuff. One day I will visit the great state of Hawaii. Gotta go out there. All right, Fialua60, also known as Soli684, says blowout 55-10. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Hey, look, I wouldn't complain. I'd be very happy with that. But I think the game will be a little bit closer than that.
Yeah, shout out to Fia Lou. He's been saying this all off season. If this happens, like I said, if any of my fans make a prediction, they will get their little moment on my show after the game. So if this happens, like I said, and also to the Bears fan, I saw him on another show saying that I don't want him on my channel. I want him to listen to this. You better show up on my show, win or lose. I don't want to hear no excuse that I didn't have you on because I'm having the call-in show after the game. So he has no excuse. He has no excuse. All right. Let's keep moving on with the comments. Chad says, "What's up, Niner fans? Good luck with former Steelers linebacker Buddy Johnson because he can never stay healthy." Oh, wow. I did not know that. John Lynch, come on. Don't bring in these injured players. Thank you very much, Chad. He's a Steelers fan. See, I remember. All right. YTC says, I could have sworn Niners all damn day was Niners all. Yep. Niners all damn day. All right. Niners all damn day, bro. Now he has a bro. With the rain, it's going to be a tough to beat the -7 point odds. And yes, for those who are betting, it will probably mess up your bets because there's a 60% chance of rain in Chicago. So we'll see how the forecast is. All right, we got J49 in the building. What is up, man? So is Kittle hurt? Will he play? So far, what I've been told, J49 or J49, he has a groin injury. I don't know if that is. I don't know if you've heard about the George Kittle injury. What have you heard about that injury?
Not too much. I think I know he was held out of practice yesterday. I think whether he practices today or tomorrow, it's probably going to be the signal of whether he can go or not. Of course, I hope he can because Kittle might really need to be there to help like block. And then, of course, we know what he can do when he gets the ball in his hands. So, of course, I hope he plays, but we'll see. Fingers crossed.
All right. All right. David says, Michael better not disappoint. Yeah, that's the Chicago. I think it's Chicago Sports Talk. Michael is the guy. All right. We got Dubs Only Podcast. This is another New York Giants fan, a friend of Mr. YTC. He says, yes. He said, you're or whatever. What's up, man? Yo. And he says, what's popping? What's popping? Football is back, baby. Yep. Football is back, baby. All right. Say less betting. All right. And then the Niners all damn day. Scary bet, YTC. Yep. All right. Now let's talk about the 49ers and Bears. I've talked about this a few days in a row now, but I want to get your thoughts on the offense, their overview when we look at the offense. So let's look at the offense. I want to start off just like, again, called the check marks. Let's check which the offense overall. So the check mark, we're going to start off with the quarterbacks, the backs, the offensive line, and the receiving corps. So we're going to start off with the quarterback. So looking at the quarterback, Trey Lance versus Justin Fields. Who has the better quarterback on paper?
It's actually a tough one. I think long term, I like Trey Lance a little more. But I think Justin Fields, he looked really good in preseason. And like, you got to take that with a grain of salt. How you perform in preseason doesn't really mean that you're going to perform well in the regular season. But, Justin Fields has more experience. He played more in college. He played pretty much most, if not all of last year. So you might have to give the edge to Justin Fields just because he has more experience playing. But I do think long-term that Trey Lance will be the better quarterback. So, it's a tough call, but I think it's going to be maybe unpopular, but for right now, I'll have to give the slight edge to Chicago simply based on experience. But again, I think Trey Lance will be the better quarterback.
And I agree with that. Like, again, this is not nothing like any knock on Trey Lance because we all want to see him play. There's been a lot of great things, the coaching staff, the players, even the writers and the fans who have been able to watch the practices during training camp, they've said the same thing. He looks good. He's doing his job. He's doing what he's supposed to do. And long term is what we want to see, the long term success. Because let's go back to after Jeff Garcia. He was with the 49ers for like 5 seasons. He had 3 successful seasons in that time. Then we went to Alex Smith in 7 seasons with the Niners. He was always a quarterback that was a 500 quarterback. That was his threshold, not because he was bad. It's just the situation the Niners were at the time. But we've never had the long-term success quarterback. Then we went through some bunch of quarterbacks, Colin Kaepernick, Blaine Gabbert. Then we went to Jimmy Garoppolo and, C.J. Beathard. And Garoppolo, in the time he's been here, he's had a winning record, but he's been hurt a lot. So there's a reason why 49er fans want to see a quarterback that has winning records year after year after year, not just be here for 5 years, have a few successful seasons, and then get replaced after that. That time is over. Long term for Trey Lance, hopefully he's the guy. But right now, at this moment, Justin Fields wins the check mark. I've said this already before. He's the better quarterback on paper. We'll see who's the better quarterback on Sunday. But Justin Fields gives the Bears 1 point. Now let's go to the backfield. The backfield. And we're going to talk about the fullback running game, the backfield, the Chicago Bears 49ers. Who has the better backfield and why?
I'm going to go with the 49ers here. I think that Montgomery is a good running back. I don't think he's like a top 5 running back, but with the Niners, number one, we have the best fullback in the game with Kyle Juszczyk. So that automatically gives us like a really big advantage, and he can do so many things. But I think Elijah Mitchell, if he stays healthy, could have a great year. We have a number of running backs who are maybe not household names. Like if you ask like the average NFL fan, they might not know all about these guys, but I think we saw what Mitchell did last year. Really, really good. He did really well, not only last year against the Bears in that game, but also the head coach of the Bears was the Indianapolis Colts defensive coordinator last year. And in that game against the Colts, which was also a rainy game, really ugly game, we lost that game, but Elijah Mitchell ran the ball really well in that game too. And then you get like depth pieces with Jeff Wilson. I think TDP and Jordan Mason are going to have their moments throughout the year. So I think the depth is with the 49ers. You could definitely, if someone said they think David Montgomery is better than Elijah Mitchell, I'm like, okay, maybe fair enough. But the depth I think the 49ers have, plus and you have a guy like Juszczyk who can do everything, then I think the Niners have the edge with running backs.
Yeah, and that's the thing that, like a lot of people have to understand. That's why you have to look at, like, you can't be a fan and just say, all right, the Chicago Bears are going to beat the Niners 31 points, 41 points, 51 points. You can't be that type of fan. And again, I can say, just to make an example, that the Niners are going to crush the Bears. But let's talk realistic. David Montgomery, what's the depth chart? That's the question mark. David Montgomery, depth chart. The depth chart scares me. Let's look at the 49ers. Elijah Mitchell last year is going to remind the Bears why he was a 6th-round selection. 6th-round selection. Beat out Trey Sermon, who's no longer on the team. He's the number one guy, had over 130 plus rushing yards. Okay. Now, I will say this. Jeff Wilson, good running back. Davis Price, good running back. Jordan Mason, hidden gem. And of course, the biggest factor on the backfield, more dangerous than anybody, is Kyle Juszczyk. He's a dual threat backfield player, blocking, receiving, and running. So he does a lot of great things. He is going to be moving around the motions. He's going to make the Bears defensive coordinator what's going on. It's no disrespect. The backfield of the 49ers is the better of the two. So now let's move on to the offensive line. And this one's going to be a little tricky one because 49ers have some issues. Let's go with the offensive line. Both sides, 49ers, Bears, who has the better offensive line?
I'm going to say the 49ers as well. There's definitely question marks, and I'm not saying that the Niners have the best offensive line or anything in the world, but you have Trent Williams, who's going to be blocking for Trey Lance's blind side, and he is the best in the game. Like, there's no question about that. I think that's also going to help a guy like Aaron Banks, who's going to be, his first, regular season start. Like, when I looked at preseason, especially that game against the Texans, I mean, Jalen Moore just had an awful game, and I think Aaron Banks was maybe losing confidence in Jalen Moore, but maybe he had to try and like overcompensate for things. But when you know that you have like the best left tackle in football beside you, I think that takes some pressure off you. It sounds like Mike McGlinchey is going to be going on Sunday, which is good news. Just to have that the veteran guy, he's a good run blocker. Yeah, his pass protection is not the best, but he's a veteran guy. He's played in a ton of games, some big games, and he's a good run blocker. And if the weather is what it might be, like raining, we're going to need that. Now, of course, we have those question marks with Banks, Brendel, and then Burford. So there's, again, not saying this offensive line is perfect, but I think as the season goes on, it'll get better. But when you factor in Trent Williams, when you factor in Mike McGlinchey, compared to the Bears offensive line, yikes. I mean, they have Cody Whitehair, who I think is their left guard or center, who's a good player. But beyond that, I just don't really know. They have Tim Patrick, I think, Lucas Patrick, who I think they signed from the Packers last year. Lucas Patrick gave up like 4 or 5 pressures against the 49ers just in one game last year. So I think the Niners will be able to take advantage of that. The Bears offensive line is a major work in progress. So overall, I think the Niners will have the upper hand when it comes to this game at the offensive line. Not a huge upper hand, but it's definitely a better when you look at the top end guys like Williams and McGlinchey.
Yeah, 100%. Like, let's get the elephant in the room. The middle of the offensive line is the question. You have a 6-year football player that's spent time in Atlanta, spent the last 2 seasons on the practice squad, and a depth player. He's making his first ever start in the NFL. So basically, technically, he's a rookie. He's a 29-year-old rookie, but he's 29 years old. So then you look at Aaron Banks. You talked about it. Drafted last year, did not play any games, making his first career start. I want to know what those 2 players are going to do. Burford is the only guy I feel a little bit confident because what he's done during his time with the 49ers, from OTA, training camp, preseason, he's shown great moments on that offensive line. Mike McGlinchey, you said it, a veteran guy, good run block, a good run blocker, run stopper, knows what to do. Trent Williams, I'm sorry to any Bears fan, he's better than David Bakhtiari. He's the best left tackle. Because, they get to see David Bakhtiari twice versus the Packers. You're going to see Trent Williams, why he got paid the money he got paid, why he is so good, and why his nickname, just like me and my guest yesterday, the nickname, the Silverback. There's a reason why he has that nickname. It's a good nickname. He's earned it, and he's a Silverback. There's a reason why he's earned that nickname. He didn't earn it because, they just wanted to call him that. No, he earned it because he was a great player. He knows what to do. Tevin Jenkins, you talk about Cody Whitehair. A lot of question marks on those guys, yes. And then you talked about one of their offensive linemen who played with the Packers. When you give up a lot of pressures, giving up, that is not good. That is not good. And our defensive line players are going to just rock them every moment of the game. Javon Kinlaw is healthy. Eric Armstead is healthy. The bull rush in the middle is going to be very ferocious. In the interior, blitzing when it comes to the pass scheme. Nick Bosa, he's going to be held so many times because Nick Bosa is going to be ramming through everyone. So I'm going to give the offensive line the edge. And now we're going to come to the final offensive. It's a no-brainer, but I want to get your thoughts about it. 49ers versus Bears wide receiving core.
Wide receivers, yeah, it's far and away the 49ers. I mean, Debo Samuel, Ayuk are better than any wide receiver on the Bears roster. And I'm not trying to throw shade at the Bears. I think Mooney is a solid guy. I know they signed Byron Pringle, but after that, it just becomes somewhat like slim pickings for him. They have Dante Pettis on their roster for crying out loud. So I think the Niners, when you look at like the top end, the Niners beat them, but also the depth too. Ray McLeod is a veteran guy who's like, for the position that he'll be asked to play with for the 49ers, is perfect for that role. Then you have Jawan Jennings, who, struggled a little bit early in the preseason, but the game against the Texans, the last preseason game, looked really good. And we saw what he did last season as well in those third down situations, the red zone. He's really effective. He's a big receiver. Then we got the rookie Danny Gray, the speedster who can just take the top off the defense. So the thing what I like so much about the 49ers wide receiver group is that it's really complement. Like everyone has like a role, but you have like the big receiver in Jennings. You have like the speedy guy in Gray. Ray McLeod's like the smaller, shiftier, like slot receiver. Then you have the all-around playmakers in Ayuk and Debo who are just both fantastic players. So receivers are a lot better too. Then when you factor in like the tight ends as well, assuming if George Kittle plays, then we clearly blow him out with tight ends. If he doesn't go, then yeah, I'll give the edge to the Bears, because I think our depth at tight end is okay. But overall, in terms of just receivers, man, like the Niners just have like so many stud players. I think we definitely beat them there.
Mm-hmm. Niners all damn day says, I guess they have a 5th round rookie going against Nick Bosa, I think, at left tackle. And
yeah.
Just saying that, a 5th round rookie going against Nick Bosa. If the referees call it, they're going to get a lot of holding penalties if they call it, because Nick Bosa is going to be drawing double teams. And if you're going against a first-time player, it doesn't matter what round they were selected, a first-time player, first-time starter versus a veteran like Nick Bosa, you better not bet on the rookie. All right. YTC Production says, if it's true about the rain, bet the under for Fields and Lance passing. And that's one thing, again, we talked about the rain. Like I said, it's a 60% chance of rain. 49ers win. I already talked about it twice on my channel. The wide receivers, the depth that we have, all 5 wide receivers could be number 1 guys, in my opinion. That's just my thoughts about that. So Fields helps the Bears get 1 check mark, but the Niners roll through the offense as we continue moving on with now the defense. And this is not going to be fair, but we still have to do it. And again, to any Bears fans, this is not us making fun of your team. It's just we're going to the overview, looking at the strengths and weaknesses on both teams. So Bears 49ers, the defensive line player, what are your thoughts, Shifty?
Yeah, I mean, the Niners defensive line for sure takes it. It's probably the deepest unit in the entire league. If you look at any defensive line, you could argue, you look at Nick Bosa, I think in a weird way is underrated. Eric Armstead playing inside is just a monster. I think Kinlaw is definitely primed to have a big year. Hopefully he stays healthy. He's, essentially in the best shape of his life. So that's awesome to see. And then my guy, Samson Ebukam, I think he's going to have a big, big year. He's one of those guys who came on really well at the end of last year, looked good in the preseason game against Houston. But then you look at the depth here. You see Kerry Hyder, who had a big year with us a couple years ago. Drake Jackson, the rookie. Jordan Willis, Charles Omenihu. And then inside, you have Hassan Ridgeway, who we signed in free agency. Kevin Gibbons, who I think is a good player too. So it's just so many guys who are just so good. It's crazy to think how deep this 49ers roster is, especially on the defensive line. We have the top end talent in guys like Bosa and Armstead, but then we just have the depth where all game long, when we're going like rotating guys in and out, there's no easy matchup. There's no guy out there who you're like, well, he's not so great. Like every guy can make plays. So that Bears offensive line, they better be ready because for 60 minutes, that Niners defensive line is going to be coming at them, and it's going to be really hard, especially like it was mentioned in the comments. They have a 5th-round rookie. They have a couple of guys who are maybe going to get traded. So I think they're in for a long day.
Yeah. And again, Robert Quinn, you have to give him his respect. So, like, for a lot of people who are saying that we're bashing on the Bears, I want to give respect to Robert Quinn. Robert Quinn had 18 and a half sacks, I think. I want to look at the numbers, but he had a good year. So he can get after the quarterback. But he's one player. He's one player. No one player can do them by themselves. Last year, look at Nick Bosa, had 15 and a half sacks. Early in the year, had no help. Once that line got better, Nick Bosa got better. The line got better. So someone has to step up to help Robert Quinn during this season. He's one guy. 49ers, Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead, Samson Ebukam, and we still have Drake Jackson we didn't talk about. Charles Omenihu we didn't talk about. There's a lot of players. And in the middle, we still have, I think, what's his name? Hassan Ridgeway as well. And I think Kevin Gibbons, I think he's on the team still. The depth. We have so much depth there. It is no contest. Niners win this easy. But it's going to get even worse because now we're going to talk about the linebackers. I know my thoughts about it. What's your thoughts on the linebackers?
Oh, yeah, the Niners completely blow the Bears out of the water when it comes to the linebackers. But, I guess before I go into the linebackers, I do want to I completely agree with you that Robert Quinn, very, very good player. If the Bears still had Khalil Mack, then I could see where someone maybe makes the argument, well, maybe the Bears have like just 2 elite guys like that. So, but for the linebackers, I mean, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shire, best starting unit in the NFL. Easily, I don't think there's any team that comes close in terms of top end talent and depth on the linebacking core. But then Oren Burks looked pretty darn good in the preseason, very active. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, also an active player in preseason, making some plays. So when you look at just like, man, it's just awesome to see. Like if we come out in that, if all 3 of those guys are out there, they could all be number 1 linebackers on the majority of teams in the NFL, but we have all 3 of them on our roster. So again, I'll give credit to Roquan Smith. I think he's a fantastic player, probably a top 5 linebacker in the league. But when you look at the depth behind him, it just doesn't even compare. If someone wants to try and make the argument that Roquan Smith is better than Fred Warner, I probably wouldn't agree with them, but someone maybe makes that argument. But then it's like, hey, well, we also have Dre Greenlaw and Azeez Al-Shire. So now what? So the Niners overall a lot better. But then again, when we do these like matchups against like the opponents, the Niners are going to win this, like the linebacking core. Like every time, every game we play this year, we're going to have better linebackers than the other team. So
yeah, and this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand how deep the defense is. Last year, the 2 linebackers did not play, Azeez and Greenlaw. Now they're back. Fred Warner does not have to do it all by himself. All 3 linebackers are back. Roquan Smith, I want to say this to some Bears fans. I feel bad for what they're doing because his 5th-year option is not the same as Nick Bosa because he was drafted early in the 1st round in the top 10. When Nick Bosa got it, when they gave him his 5th-year option, I don't know if he took it. Nick Bosa almost got $19 million. So, there's some weird situation. I don't know what happened with the contract, but again, that's the Bears. I don't know. So I'm really giving love and respect to Roquan Smith, but it's not even fair. Our linebackers are the best. I don't care what Bears fans say. Get mad at me, trash me, whatever. It's the fact. It's the fact. I'm not even going to go there. Also, I'm biased because Fred Warner's senior, his father, that's his name, follows me. So I'm going to be biased. Okay? I always have to say that because he follows me on my YouTube channel. So I wanted to always say that. But let's move on to the final defensive skill position, the secondary safeties and corners. What are your thoughts? Who has the better corner, the Bears or the 49ers?
Oh, I think the 49ers win this one too. I mean, Emmanuel Mosley, again, similar to the running backs, Emmanuel Mosley is not a household name. He's not like a Jalen Ramsey. He's not a how Richard Sherman was when people think of like the top cornerbacks, but I think he's really damn good. But not only that, Charvarius Ward, you know, when we signed him, I was really happy with the move, but then I did like some more digging into like his numbers and just how well he played against, in big games, in the biggest games of the season, and against the top of the top like receivers, and he was really good. Like Charvarius Ward is potentially a lockdown kind of guy. Now we haven't seen him because he didn't play in preseason, but man, I think with this pass rushing unit, Charvarius Ward should have his best year so far in the NFL. And I just hope and pray that both him and Mosley stay healthy for the year, because even though I think our depth is decent at cornerback, I think that those guys out there is just amazing. Now, we also have to then talk about Sammy Womack, who, look, it's going to be his first regular season game. So, yeah, I'm sure along the way there's going to be some bumps, but he looked fantastic in preseason, just a playmaking guy. And that's something that we really, really needed in the secondary. That was one of my biggest criticisms last year, is that we didn't make enough big plays and turnovers. Now, if we go and look at the Bears, you mentioned they have a couple of young rookies who have a lot of promise. Kyler Gordon, I think a lot of us were fans of him in the draft. Jaquan Brisker, I wasn't as high on him as some other people were, but I respect the fact that, hey, he was, he's highly thought of coming out of Penn State. But look, this is they're going to be, Shanahan's going to throw so many different things their way. They're going to have to cover Debo and Ayuk, a number of other guys. So I think that long term, maybe the Bears secondary is better when those guys get a little bit more experience. But this is going to be their first NFL regular season game. So they're going to make rookie mistakes, just like I'm sure Sammy Womack will, but they're going to make rookie mistakes too. And yeah, Jalen Johnson, pretty solid player. I think they still have Eddie Jackson, if I'm not certain. I think he's still there. But overall, I think I got to give the 49ers, especially the cornerbacks. You could argue about the safeties, because I like Hufanga, but then beside him, because there's no Jimmy Ward, it's going to be either Odom or Tarvarius Moore. So I could understand the argument if they're like, hey, I think that at safety the Bears might be better, but at cornerback, I mean, when you just look at Ward, Mosley, and Sammy Womack, I think we're definitely better.
So Crazy Juice wants to say what's up. What's up, Crazy Juice?
Crazy Juice.
And I wanted to save this because the Dubs Only podcast says, don't overthink it. He says the Bears are trash. So he's going hard on the Bears. So it's not that we're overthinking it. It's just, again, we're trying to be unbiased. And that's what we do on this show. Yes, if I wanted to be like rude and disrespectful, I would say that too. But we're trying to be fair and unbiased. But overall, I think me and Shifty knows that the Niners are the better team. Well, that's why we're doing this, because again, this is the preview. We just don't say, all right, who's in the win. You got to go through all the aspects of football. My boy Joe Griffin is back. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in, man. Long time no see. My boy Joe Griffin says, John J. Shout out my boy Joe Griffin. All right. Now comes the part where, again, I don't do predictions, but we're going to look at the keys to victory, what the Niners have to do and what the Bears have to do. We're going to start off with the Bears. What did the Bears have to do to beat the 49ers?
Well, the Bears have to win the turnover battle, number one. Like, they have to make a big play, whether it's an interception return or a fumble return or a special teams touchdown. I think they have to make at least one of those like big game-changing plays. But they have to force the 49ers into mistakes. I think the fact that if it is going to be raining, although I think the strength of our team is running the football, but usually those rain games mean that the games are a lot closer and they're not high scoring. So if they get one of those big game-changing plays like a special teams touchdown or what have you, then maybe that gives them enough plays to win the game. But I think it's going to be really, really tough, on the Bears. A lot of things will have to go their way. Not only a big game-changing turnover, but I guess one of my concerns for the 49ers, which I saw in the preseason, was a lot of penalties. So, hopefully we don't shoot ourselves in the foot by getting a lot of penalties in this game. but I think that's what would need to happen for the Bears to win. Like they need to have a couple of lucky plays, and the 49ers, basically the 49ers would have to beat themselves for the Bears to win.
Yeah, like this is what I said yesterday, and I'm going to say it again for those who missed the show. They need to really test Trey Lance. If they think he's inexperienced, if he's horrible, they gotta make him be uncomfortable. They gotta make him do things to show what they were saying about Trey Lance. That's the biggest thing. The next thing for that to happen is they got to expose the middle of the line. That's our biggest concern. Those are the two main things on defense, what they have to do. On offense, they got to control the tempo. They got to control the tempo. Basically, they got to find ways to not let our linebackers, because a lot of people forget this. Our linebackers are an extension of our corners, and they're also an extension of our interior defense. You need to make sure you keep those linebackers out of play. And again, Fred Warner, he can drop back on coverage during pass games. He can, rush you and blitz you in the middle. Aziz is a good lateral movement. I talked about this last year. He can move side to side, side to side, side to side. He could be in one area, and in less than 5 seconds, he's on the other side tackling someone. And Dre Greenlaw, I was told yesterday by the Deep Dig podcast that Greenlaw is a good tackling specialist. He can run and knock you down. So that's what they have to do, is eliminate that when they're on offense. But there's not much I can say for the Bears to win this game. But those are the ways that they can win. For the 49ers, what do the Niners have to do to win the game?
Yeah, for the Niners to win, I think that we just need to basically play, and this is going to be one of those football cliches, but it's like just play just sound, fundamental football. You know what I mean? I don't think we don't need to try and do too much because we're just the more talented team. If we play within the offense, take what the defense gives us. I think we'll make enough plays to come away with the win. Plus, it's always a good feeling when you go into a game and you know that like the defense is just really, really good. And we really shouldn't give up a ton of points to the Bears. So I think that if we play sound football on special teams, we don't give up any returns or anything like that. If we don't turn the ball over and we just do our thing, I think we're going to come away with the win. Ultimately, what I think the Niners would like to do, and I guess every team would like to do this, but just really control the clock where we're running the ball effectively, picking up those key third downs, but getting ourselves in good second and third down positions where we're not losing yards on first down. We're not getting bad penalties or nothing like that. If we can just be consistent, pick up 4 or 5, 6 yards on first down, then it opens up everything else where the Bears have to defend the entire field. So I think, as you said, the Bears, what they're probably going to try and do, especially early on in the game, is they're going to try and make, Trey Lance force him to beat us. But if we can get those good yards on first down, then they have to start defending the whole field. Then they have to push back a little bit. So yeah, they're going to probably try and crowd the line of scrimmage, especially in the middle, because we know that's like our weakest point of the offensive line. But if we can make those plays, that makes them have to respect the entire field, then that'll just open everything up. So as much as I said, like maybe don't take, you don't have to like take crazy big shots down the field, but maybe we do like one of like the first plays of the game. Maybe it is Danny Gray who just goes deep and we just try and hit him on that. And then they're like, hey, we have to back off a little bit, because they're going to try and get us deep as well. So, but ultimately, yeah, the Niners just play sound football, play good defense. And I'd like to see us kind of continue on from the preseason, is that forcing those turnovers. That was like the one thing that we didn't do last year a lot of. We didn't force turnovers. So if we do that, interceptions, fumbles, whatever it is, and yeah, I think the Niners, we have the better team. So just play sound football. We should win the game.
Yeah. Like for me, the way the 49ers win this game is basically with our backfield. And it doesn't mean just run the football 60 times. It's use Kyle Juszczyk in misdirections. Use George Kittle. This is the thing that a lot of Bears fans have been watching and listening on their podcast and on Twitter, mostly Twitter. And we all know how Twitter is a friendly place. If you get my drift, Shifty, it's a wonderful place to get your expert opinions. But this is one thing that people don't forget what George Kittle can do: block, run, and pass. Kyle Juszczyk, block, run, pass. We have 2 extra linemen when we are running the football. That's why our run game is so great. People forget that. The way we win is using our 2 Swiss Army knives, one of our pass catchers and blockers, who's also a tight end, and another one's a fullback. And then you basically expose them by running the football and opening up the play action. Last year, that was what the Niners had to do every game, is do that formula. Okay? In the pass game, okay, use the play action. Basically, allow Trey Lance to use his legs. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, he doesn't know how to use his legs. Anyway, but here's the point. Trey Lance will use his legs not to run for 50 yards or run 80 yards or 100 yards. He's going to use his legs to allow Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle to get open and away from defenders. That's what we're going to do on the offense to win the game. And on defense, it's going to be how Kinlaw and Armstead adjust in the middle to allow the edge rushers when it comes to the pass game. And also, as I said, our linebackers are going to be the big keys to win this victory. So basically, on the defense, the interior with the linebackers, and the offense is running the football, using misdirections, a lot of end arounds, and using many trickeries. And the Bears are not going to see that coming. And that's why Bear fans, I don't know why, for whatever the reason, they don't see that. But 49er fans see that, and that's the reason why that's how the 49ers are going to win the game. So, because football season has started, officially, people can make predictions. I'm not going to do predictions, but Shifty, I want to get your thoughts, your opinions. What is your prediction for the game? What's going to happen that you're going to predict that? So basically, it's 2 questions. What are you going to predict that's going to happen in the game, and what is going to be the final score and who wins?
I think we're going to run for in total, we'll have like over 150 rushing yards. I'd like to think that we force at least 2 turnovers. And then Nick Bosa has 2 sacks. But I think Ebukam also has maybe 2 sacks as well. I think he's going to have a great game. But yeah, if we get 2 turnovers, I think we're going to run for over 150 yards. And this can change a little bit with the weather. But overall, I think those will happen. I think I'm going to say that Charvarius Ward gets an interception. That'll be a prediction of mine. But I'm going to say in terms of the score, assuming the weather, it's not like a crazy downfall of rain like that game a couple of years ago against Washington. But I'm going to say the Niners 27 and then the Bears 20.
Okay. I like that score. Basically, it's going to be a very competitive game. I think it's going to be a fun game. For me, this is one prediction that I'm going to say. I think Justin Fields will have a turnover. I don't think he's going to throw an interception. Okay? But he will have turnovers. I think he will fumble the ball 3 times because of the conditions. Because of the conditions. But he's going to make 1 turnover, and he's basically going to help the Niners. And one of the possessions probably is going to be in their territory because of the conditions. And the reason why is because he's going to be running around. He's going to be chased. And there's going to be moments where he's going to get hit and the ball is going to be coming out. So I think he's going to lose the ball. I think, I don't want to say like 4 or 5. I think the maximum 3 times he will lose one of those multiple fumbles. So he will have a turnover because of the way he plays. The run game, I have an X factor. A lot of people say Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell will be the leading rusher, but I think another running back will have a touchdown. Like I said, I'm using my brain. I think that's what's going to happen. On the defensive side of the ball, I think one player that no one is going to be looking at, I think one of our outside linebackers, Greenlaw or Aziz, will have multiple sacks. Oh, I'm throwing something out there.
Ooh,
One seeing
okay.
that
I like
because
that. I
of the
like that.
pressure, it will allow one of our linebackers, outside linebackers, to cause some sacks.
I
And
like that prediction. That's a good one.
so that's what I think is going to happen. And if I have to do a final score, I'm going to assume it's going to be drizzling, very light. I don't think it's going to be rain, but I think it's going to be like it's probably going to be like wet moisture. The field's going to be a little bit soggy. I'm going to say the 49ers are going to score 24 points. 24 points, and the Bears will score 2 touchdowns, and it will be a 10-point game. I still have the 49ers win, but I think the game is going to be much closer than most people. It's not going to be a shootout. It's not going to be what a lot of people are saying. So that's my thoughts,
I agree.
my predictions, and what's going to happen in the game. And I want to ask the 49er faithful what they are going to predict. So you guys have a few minutes to let me know, what do you think is going to happen in the game, and who do you win? Now we can do predictions because it is officially week 1 where you can start making predictions. All right. We got Dubs Only Podcast. He's a New York Giants fan. Final score, Niners a lot, Bears. I actually like that prediction. I'm going to start doing that. Niners a lot,
I like it.
Bears a little. I'm going to actually start to do that. All right. Crazy Juice says Bosa is going to sack Fields 3 times.
I can see it.
Wow.
Yeah, Fields is going to be running back there for his life.
Brian says Niners by 3. And I think I know Robbie Gold for the win. Do you like that? Do you think Robbie Gold will save the Niners? What are your thoughts, Chippy?
That would be, I mean, I'd obviously rather win by like a lot more than that, but that would be pretty awesome if Robbie Gold kicked the game-winning field goal in Chicago.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to let the fans basically put their predictions, their thoughts, what's going to happen. But what a great show as always. 3 shows. Like I said, we're going to be doing one of these shows once a week. It may be on Thursday, maybe earlier, maybe later, but me and Shifty will always have a show this entire season. The Candlestick Point Report is going to be fun. But let the fans know who you are, where they can find you, all your social media platforms, and let them know what you do, and let us know the stuff that you do on your channel. Thank you very much, Shifty, always being on.
Oh, I always love being on. Thank you for having me on, Jed. Candlestick Report's one of my favorite things to do now. It's always a good time. For me, diehard 49er fan, born in San Francisco. I live in San Francisco right now, and I just make a lot of 49ers content. So recently I put out my own preview for the Bears game, but throughout the season, I like to preview games. Then I'll do a review of the games once they're done. I live stream, so I do play-by-play reactions to as the games are happening, and that's one of my favorite. That's probably my favorite thing to do on YouTube is just to react to it and kind of get like some engagement going on the channel. But then other times I'll do videos where I cover the draft, free agency, and I'll kind of make videos or just like ideas that pop into my mind. So something that I want to put out either today or tomorrow is going to be some bold predictions for the season, for example. But yeah, for me, it's if you search Shifty 49ers Talk into YouTube, I pop right up. And then also Twitter, it's Shifty's 49ers Talk. And then Instagram is the same. I do talk a little bit more on Twitter lately just to kind of get my thoughts out there. But yeah, Twitter's an interesting place. So, but I prefer to spend most of my time and with the channel just on YouTube and, just making I just like to make good content. And, I just hope that, people, if you haven't already, do come by, subscribe, leave comments. It's always good to get a good discussion going.
Yeah. And looks like all our fans are putting some of their predictions in the chat. Crazy Jew says Niners 28, and he calls them Pooh Bears 10. All right. David says, all right, David's comment. 1 second. David says our defensive line will live in the Bears' backfield rent. And that could happen. That could happen.
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Looks like that's all the predictions. Shout out to everyone for being in the chat. But with that said, I'm John Jay. This is the Candlestick Point Report with me and my boy Shifty. This way, Shifty Niner Talk.
John Jay.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, you guys have a good rest of your day. Enjoy the football game tonight. Uh, cannot wait for Sunday. Cannot wait for Sunday. But with that said, I'm John Jay. This is the 49ers Ultimate Report. You have a good rest of your day. And of course, I hope you enjoy the outro.